Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
A Time for Truth show is sponsored by the Office of Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, a periodontal, dental implant and laser specialist in New York City, for over 40 years. Dr. Fialkoff was honored by the International College of Dentists and Pierre Fauchard, and received the Presidential Lifetime Humanitarian Honor from the White House. Call us at 718-229-3838.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to A Time for Truth show. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff. It is a pleasure to welcome you back with us again tonight. And tonight we're going to talk about humanity, the quality that makes a human being different than the animal kingdom, the quality of a human being that can bring peace, love, and expansion to any organization. But unfortunately, in our world, we have some people who don't follow humanity, who maybe have lost the miracle that life is. And tonight, we're very lucky to have someone who defends humanity, who defends the principles of what is right and what is wrong. We have someone with the courage of a lion and the heart of a samurai, and that is Tatsuki Nakayama, a graduate of the University of Tokyo and the National University of Singapore Law Schools, an international attorney of Singapore, a founder and managing partner of Nakayama Partners Law Firm, a certified fraud examiner, ACFE, from the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy and the Singularity University, an executive of the Inter-Pacific Bar Association, a certified agent of the Japanese Professional Baseball Players Association, an international business advisor and ethics expert, a specialist in international transactions, labor, corporate, civil, criminal, domestic laws. He's also a published author in dispute resolution, legal issues regarding investment and labor law, with major works, Global Governance and Compliance, Integrity, and English Negotiation Techniques. Buddha, if you will, let's bring Tatsuki Nakayama live and a bit of warm welcome. Welcome, Tatsuki.
Thank you very much for the very kind introduction, Dr. Fialkoff, or I may call it Ben. I'm very happy to be invited to here to share some of our thoughts about humanity. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, all the way from Japan. And the power of your message is such that you come across like you're in the room next door to me, which says something about this show immediately. So I want to get right to it. When you were a young man, what were your dreams?
First, when I was teens, I wanted to be a professional baseball player. I was so into baseball, but I'm not so tall as Shohei Ohtani, so I quit baseball and I decided to become a lawyer, international lawyer, in my early 20s. Yeah. After that, in the late 20s, I became a lawyer actually. But at that time, I was intended to be moved to a statesman, to politician. So I still have interest in politics. Thank you very much.
Very interesting. I wanted to ask you something because when I first met you in Washington, I got this feeling about you. So I want to ask you this question. Did the Japanese samurai tradition influence you in becoming such a strong advocate of international law and justice?
Yes, I think to be a samurai origin or to have samurai spirit in mind, it counts and it matters. And it matters in terms of defending humanity or specifically to be courageous. To be a samurai or to have samurai spirit is to be courageous, to be bold in every occasion. For example, the most typical phrase which represents samurai spirit is that you got to be there. You have to be ready to die in every occasion. In Japanese, we say, shinu koto to mitsuketari. It means we have no fear. Considering that I'm dead now, I'm ready to die in every occasion, then we can be in a state, in a mental state that I have no fear. So if we have a samurai spirit in mind, we can be courageous, we can be bold. So in that sense, I have been representing Unification Church or Family Federation, which is very notorious, very infamous in Japan. So it took courage for me to take this case in that sense. To follow samurai spirit is something very much related to defending humanity. Thank you.
That's absolutely very, very true. And I wanted to ask you, because you're a professional certified fraud examiner, what disturbs you regarding what you see in our world in terms of integrity and honesty?
In terms of integrity, let me explain like this. I wear a white jacket, white suit every time for 10 years because this is my lifetime experiment. I was in Singapore. I was in the United States for a long time. And seeing from overseas, I made a hypothesis. In Japan, it's very homogeneous society, very high peer pressure. And in that high peer pressure society, we cannot speak up. We follow others. This is Japanese mindset. But in Singapore, United States, very, diversified society, heterogeneous, the less peer pressure, then we can speak up everything very freely, freedom of expression something. I want to move Japan from Japanese like to, international or diversity society. In order to represent this in clothes, I wear white jacket. In that sense, in order to tackle with wrongdoings, fraud, we gotta speak up against peer pressure. Do not speak it. In order to have courage to be diverse, in order to make this world a diverse society, I'm fighting like this.
Makes very much sense. I was curious. I see you wanted to be a baseball player, but then is it you were friends with baseball players, or how did you become a legal counsel for Japanese baseball?
It's not so difficult if we have an interest or some expertise in baseball. We can just notify to some authority, and then we can become a agent for baseball players. But in Japan, it's weird. one lawyer can represent only one baseball player in a year. So we can be lucrative. We can't make much money. Only we can defend only one baseball player.
Okay, very interesting. Please tell us a little bit, because many viewers in America probably don't realize this, but tell us a little bit about what's going on with the proposed dissolution of the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification. Tell us what's going on with this, and please explain so that we in America and those people watching the show can understand.
Yeah, it's a very complicated matter. 3 years ago, the former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was assassinated by some culprit. His mother was a believer of the Family Federation, and the mother donated a lot. So the story or narrative inside is that the culprit, the assassin, had a grudge against the Unification Church or the Family Federation. They tortured my mother. So after that, the Japanese society and the government and mass media attacked so much against Family Federation. And in these 2 years, the Japanese government, filed a lawsuit against Family Federation in order to dissolve them, to extinguish them. So that lawsuit is still pending. And the first instance judgment will come in the spring or maybe within this year. So this is the situation. Yeah.
Wow. Now, I've held different conferences at the UN, and most of the world governments have constitutions that protect the ability to have your own religion. I would think that Japan, being a democracy basically, has that constitution, no?
Yes, we do have a constitution, and based on that constitution, in the competent act of Japanese law, which is a Religious Cooperation Act, the requirement of dissolution in order to dissolve a religious cooperation, it's very strict, very high criteria, which is if one religious corporation commits an act which is extremely against the public order or public welfare, then it should be dissolved. So based on the constitution, the requirement of the dissolution is very high, but nevertheless, Japanese government is trying to dissolve Unification Church.
I see. Okay, and then, I also, as I was reading and looking into this a little bit for the program that we're doing right tonight, I was reading about something called deprogramming, and that there was someone subject to deprogramming. What is deprogramming?
Deprogramming meaning the programmers, the professional bad guys, in order to lose the faith of Unification Church believers, they kidnap them, abduct them, and confine to some small apartment or something like, so as long as 12 years or something, in order to lose their faith. Their story is, in order to attack Family Federation or the Unification Church, so by the way, this story is very connected with political or ideological background anyway. In order to lose the faith of the believers, they kidnap them and confine them, because their story is they believe that the Family Federation believers are mind-controlled or brainwashed. So the normal practice, normal way wouldn't work. So they use deprogramming, notorious deprogramming. Yeah.
Wow, it seems like really more brainwashing. It seems like the deprogramming, to me, the way you describe it, is a form of brainwashing so that the result will be what the people who apprehended the person want. So then what happens is the person who's apprehended has no rights in the matter. So they have to agree with the people. It goes totally against any logic that I can see. So this is going on in Japan right now?
Not so much right now, because one victim who has suffered confinement for 12 years made a lawsuit against the professional deprogrammers, and he won in a lawsuit at the Supreme Court in 2015.
I see.
About 10 years ago. After that, the professional deprogrammers quitted deprogramming officially. So it's gone now, but still, somewhat ongoing. Yeah.
I see. Okay, and something that I wanted to ask you, because the United Nations actually drafted a Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And there are a few different articles that I wanted to get your opinion on, because one was Article 18, that everyone has a right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, and that this right includes the freedom to manifest his religion or belief in practice, worship, observance. And Article 19, that everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression without interference. And it goes on, but I think this is enough. I wanted to ask you your opinion on why this is not being looked at more, since it was put and published by the United Nations.
Yeah, in Japan, we have argued, women and family federation have argued so much about Article 18, which is very important. And I believe it should apply to family federation, Article 18 of the UN Court, which is very important. But after the Abe assassination, in these 3 years, the mass media in Japan is highly biased, prejudiced against family federation, and they wouldn't pick up what we say. So they ignore, the mass media ignores Article 18. That's why I was in Washington to attend IRF Summit. That's why we have been asking international minds like you, Ben, to support Japan, so the status in Japan from outside pressure. Domestically speaking, we have done a lot, but it hasn't worked. So we need international support from all over the world. Thank you.
Yeah, well, the International Religious Freedom Summit that you mentioned that happened in this February in Washington, D.C., had many, many leaders, and there were different topics showing what has been going on in our world, in our globe. And, Japan, to me, has always been a symbol of freedom, intelligence, productivity, competence, and honor. I mean, it's the home of the samurai, which is honor to me at the highest sense. So, I think that it's so important that we look at the ability to express what we believe. Because if we can't express what we believe, then how can we call ourselves humanity? It doesn't go with the definition of being human or humanity. I know it's just your opinion, but I wanted to ask your opinion. What I know you gave that you'd like Japan to look more at a diverse opinion, which I think it would be very easy for them, because the people, I think I have such respect for them. What do you think needs to happen? What are the steps that you feel need to happen?
It's a very good question. In answering this question, I think integrity should come first and foremost. Integrity is one of my expertise. Let me explain this way. Not only compliance, just comply rules, comply laws, but integrity in our own mind to have the courage to meet the demands of reality. This is one definition of integrity. In Japan, domestically, the Unification Church of the Family Federation is so attacked, so biased, prejudiced. Unless we have integrity, we cannot defend. And in order to change the minds of mass media, the government, or the court, we need to have courage. And I think in Japan, after the World War II, to be courageous or to have courage has become less important, or because before the World War II, Japanese has been summarized having too courageous, too bold. Actually, it didn't work. So we are, backlashed, and we hesitate to be courageous. So in that sense, not only in Japan, but in the world, in order to speak up, we got to be courageous. And in this context, integrity is crucially important, I believe. Thank you.
Oh, I totally can see that. It makes total sense, because as a surgeon of 44 years, I had a patient of mine come in one day, and there was a piece of paper on the floor. So I picked it up off the floor and I threw it in the garbage can. And before I could look at her, she said to me, "That's why I come to you, Dr. Fialkoff." And I made a joke with her. I say, "Why? Because I'm a garbage man?" And she goes, "Yes." I said, "What do you mean?" And we were both laughing. And she says, "Because I know when I can't see and you're in my mouth, you'll do the same thing in my mouth, and you'll pick up what shouldn't be in my mouth and you'll throw it in the garbage can, and my mouth will be healthy." And when she told me that, I was a little bit taken back. I was surprised. I started laughing. And she said something very interesting to me. She goes, "Do you think that we don't see? Why do you think people come to see you? Because they see that you have integrity." So Tatsu, your comment is so true, and it's very simple. It can be lost in our world with the technology. So much technology, we can blame it on hacking. We can blame it on some computer error. We can blame it on a virus. Sometimes I feel we use those excuses to make changes too. But you're so right about integrity. What I wanted to ask you is, what comment, because we're reaching the end of the show, what comment would you like to give? I know you're an attorney and you're defending a case, and there's certain things you probably are not allowed to say because you have a professional, integrity and standard. But as a human being, what statement would you like to give to the world regarding what you see is happening? Not just in Japan, but in general.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very good question. My last comment is, or my advice to the whole world, is that not to see others horizontally, human beings, people, that is not enough. Yeah. Being right is not enough. Right means, in this context, to see people. Rather, be righteous. Righteous, which is so much used in biblical terms in the Bible. Righteous meaning, vertically, God or heaven or whatever. Righteous meaning, or in integrity, or in our mind or in conscience. So I like this phrase. I created. Being right is not enough. Be righteous. More specifically, we should aim for being sublime, sublimity, or true goodness and beauty, rather than just making money or just becoming famous. Yeah. In order to aim for true goodness and beauty, we got to see God. We got to see heaven. Be righteous in our mind, in our conscience, or integrity. So if we see vertically heaven or God or whatever, we can be courageous. Let me end with the very famous quote by George Bernard Shaw, Nobel laureate. He said, "We got to be unreasonable. We shouldn't just be nice to others." He said, "The unreasonable man adapts himself to the world, but unreasonable man persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress in this world depends on the unreasonable man." Being unreasonable means be courageous. Am I getting through? Am I getting my point? Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think your life and your embodiment of who you are makes the point without even words needing to be spoken. And I wanted to add something to this at the end here. Scientifically, we know that there's over 100 billion galaxies, and that we Earth are in the Milky Way galaxy, which is one of 100 billion. And when we sent out the probe into space, and it's about 900 million miles from Earth in the middle of nothing, it gives you an idea of how scarce what we have here in this little ball, this little point, that we need to appreciate. And as you said, realize if there's 100 billion Milky Ways, I asked the question, where's the wall around the 100 billion galaxies? And what's on the other side of the wall of those 100 billion galaxies? And is that what we're talking about with honor, integrity, and spirituality? Because the physical will never explain it ever. So Tatsuki Nakayama, with that scientific added to the philosophical and the integrity, and for those of you watching, let's take a look at what we're doing. Let's realize how we have so far to go in this universe, and that we need to work together to get there. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you very much, Ben.
And for all of my friends in Japan, I wish you a good night, and we see each other again soon. Be well.
This show was sponsored by A Time for Truth Foundation Incorporated as a community service.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard, you don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart, yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet